This is Blake Atwood with FaithVillage.com. I'm talking with Brad Lomenick, the president and key visionary of Catalyst. I'm trying to remember a tweet I think I saw yesterday, and somebody said, some books should be articles, some articles should be blog posts, some blog posts should be tweets, and some tweets shouldn't even exist. But I felt differently about your book in the fact that I thought that almost each chapter could be a book unto itself. But I am glad that you pared it down and that you made it pretty accessible. So this is probably a ridiculous question, but do you have any more books in the works, even if they're in gestation or just ideas that you would care to share?
Yeah. Actually working on potentially a couple of projects. One would be taking the 8 essentials and actually diving down deeper into those. Because you're right, like there was so much content that we had to edit out. We had to say we just don't have room. This is more of a, not a 30,000 foot level view, but more of a 5,000 foot level view. And so we want to get down to the 100 foot level view. And so we're going to be working on like whether it'll be curriculum or it'll be some kind of smaller book, but it'll be a deep dive into each of these 8. So that's one project. The other one is really talking about what I'm the most passionate about, and it's probably of all the 8 essentials. Passion for God is definitely for me like the foundation, especially as Christians. But the one on being capable and the idea of hustling and being hungry as a leader and just the hard work of leadership. Like, what does it take to actually get it done? What does it take to make things happen? What does it mean to take a project from ideation to concept to completion? Like that whole space of, I think for, again, so many of us, we're moving into a free agent economy and a free agent generation. I saw a stat the other day that 40% of the workforce by 2020, so in 7 years, which is not very long, 40% of us will be in some way a free agent. We'll be a consultant. We'll have multiple part-time jobs. We won't necessarily exist in the full-time space that so many of us do now. And this has changed from 20 years ago. I mean, nobody was a free agent. Nobody was consulting. Nobody was, multiple part-time projects. And so because of that, I just feel like that the hard work of leadership and this idea that we're going to have all these projects in our career that we've got to move across the finish line, that's the new reality of the next 20 to 30 years of what leadership's going to look like. So we're working on a project that'll be around that whole topic.
What else would you like us to know about the book?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me that I wanted to accomplish with this book is helping leaders finish well, and especially those in their 20s and 30s. And when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're not necessarily thinking about your legacy. Many times you're thinking about, how do I get to the next level of influence, or how do I get to the next rung of accomplishment, or what am I going to do? I'm just recently married and try to figure out like life. But I want us all in our first half of our leadership journey to be thinking about the end and start with the end in mind. And if we lead well now, we're going to finish well later. And the other big thing is I hope that there's lots of practical application in the book, and that's the way we wrote it. We wrote it with the sense that I wrote it with the sense of, if I read this, I want to actually get a bunch of stuff out of it. I want to be able to highlight a lot of things, and I want to be able to find a lot of things that I can share with my team and I can tweet, and that are really literally like I can apply today. And so I'm not a philosopher. I'm not a researcher. I'm a practitioner. I run an organization. And so that's the thing I really wanted to drive home, was that if I'm reading this, I want to get something practical out of it, literally out of every page. And so we wrote it with that in mind. Hopefully the stories and the practical stuff and some of the lessons we've learned lean in that direction. So that's our hope. And, hopefully it'll be part of this leadership movement that we call Catalyst. And, there's a lot of other stuff happening with Catalyst that are way bigger, and a lot of stuff happening in the kingdom that's obviously way bigger than Catalyst, way bigger than one book, and we want people to just be part of that whole story, you know, because I do believe that our generation is destined for something significant. And when I hear that, the next generation is lazy and our country's in trouble, think of the leaders who are going to be in the places of influence 30 years from now. I totally disagree. I think it's just the opposite. I think 30 years from now, we're going to see something significant that's happened. And, we got to give tools. We got to make sure people have tools to get to that point where they can actually have learned from others who've been on the journey for a while.